when you're playing a solo and the tone, the feedback you're getting from your amp to your hands, how important is having the right sound for you to feel like you can really play? I mean, are there some nights where your sound is so good that you just can play anything?
Yeah, no, that's really well said. It's totally true. It's for me. If it doesn't sound right, and it's almost like the sound is nice, but even more important is how does it feel?
Yeah.
How does the polarity of all the situation of events of the guitar and the amp and the acoustics feel to where it's like wind to your back, you know? And I think the more stuff you run through, sometimes the harder it is to get that. You know, it can wreak havoc with that. And then the electricity thing is really tough. You know, like if you get to a building that has a lot of dirty AC, it can really trash your sound out. And it's like
that's true.
And sometimes when I get to the gig, Dustin, the gentleman I work with, we'll go around and try different AC plugs in the building to find one and it's like, wow, that's like all of a sudden you go to like the bathroom hall, you know, and it's like you plug in there and it's like it sounds better. And it's all these things add up. And I mean, if you were to like pinpoint one, you go, well, that's silly, it's kind of obsessive, and I agree. But it's you getting 3% here, 3% there. All of a sudden, you know, you make 4 changes and your tone's 30% better.
Yeah.
Know? But you know, the point is, I think, how can you construct something that's repeatable and not so complicated that it's impossible, you know? But it is important to me to make it feel right and make me want to play. You know?
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get better guests and help continue to grow both of these channels. Thank you. One of your solo sounds has a violin tone to it.
Right.
And it has a very dark sound. It's a beautiful, beautiful. What led your ear to that sound? And can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, honestly, I think you just listening to early Clapton records. I mean, they just had that kind of sound. You know, we just. And then I just wanted to have a little more gain in those records to add that fusion aspect, and like the more gain you add, the more ratty it gets sometimes. So I think I have a tendency to run a little. I wish I ran a little more treble in my lead, but the treble just gets so trashy sounding.
Right.
And I mean, I would love to have an amp that had like a ton of gain and real pure harmonics, and I could add treble and it would be pure sounding. That would be great. But I think I have a tendency to err on the side of less treble, and then sometimes if I get it more bassy sounding, then like in the studio or out of the mixing board live, we add certain frequencies that you can get away with that won't add the trash as much. But
yeah, the trash that's hard to that when you hear that hashy sound like that gets fatiguing.
Yeah.
Probably to it's like when you're hearing it yourself with playing it, where you just
yeah. So I try to get more of that kind of. But that's just a sound that I kind of like for lead. But then there's an alternative sound that I'll use where like more of the Hendrix fuzz sound, which I like that too. But that's kind of a different approach. So and I never could decide which one I liked better. So I started using a multiple amp setup. One of them has more of the Hendrix tone with the fuzzy sound, and one has more of that smoother violin tone with.
And how has your setup changed over the years?
It really hasn't changed that much. I mean, I will just use different Fender amps for rhythm, and I'll use different amps for a dirty rhythm sound, and then I use different Marshalls for a lead tone. But it's kind of stayed. The concept stayed the same because I've never been able to find an amp that could do all the sounds that I wanted, which would really be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to just have one amp, you know, but it's hard to do.
Well, your rhythm tones and your lead tones are so different from one another that it requires you to have very different amplifiers really for that.
Yeah.
You play Fender style guitars. Sometimes you run into things where you get hum.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier, does that ever drive you nuts?
You know, it doesn't bother me unless it gets ridiculous. I mean, I have played some gigs where the hum was louder than the note from the single coils, and I've ended up playing the night on a humbucking guitar. And you know, I've been trying to find some hum canceling pickups that sound more like single coils, which is tough to find.
It's hard.
So usually I'm kind of amazed at how much I've gotten to where I've just blocked it out. You know, I guess it's like somebody that has to sleep next to a subway. You know, they just get used to it and they go, I don't hear it anymore or something. But sometimes it's manageable, but every once in a while it can be a real problem. Yeah.
So what in your career have you not done that you want to do?
You know, I really want to try to. I have some ideas for guitar playing and sound in my head that I really want to try to achieve, and I think sometimes I'm trying to fight a briar patch of how to get the guitar to have a certain sound so that it can help facilitate opening up some of these new places I want to go on guitar, style-wise and sound-wise. You know, so I'm searching for that right now to try to come up with something where you really you feel a real push to like try to be a little more unique and come up with something different. Because I mean, the guitar thing, I mean, it's been done, you know, for 50, 60 years now, over and over and over, and there's so many beautiful players. And I think what really not just because it catches your eye, but it's an emotionally contributive thing to try to come up with something a little unique where you can I don't know, it kind of bathes yourself in this kind of psychic nutrition or something. Oh, you hear it. It's like when we first heard the great players we love. It's like going to see a great movie that has just a little different slant on it. It's like, wow, I just felt like I got a little wider. I just grew. I just lived two more lifetimes of experience from this thing, you know. And to me, that's such a worthwhile thing. So I'm searching for that, you know. And it's going to require me to kind of, you know, become a little bit more, you know, less solidified, you know, more liquid, and try to open up and, you know, kind of try to go somewhere you haven't been. You know.
Have you ever been on stage and you're playing and then you say to yourself, what year is this?
But you don't know where you are.
You don't know where you are, and
you're so
really
lost.
Where am I? And you're just playing.
Just playing. Yeah, or you just kind of forget the moment. Yeah, those are awesome moments. I like that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the more it's a really, you know, you've got a really great sound when you forget about your gear and you're just playing. And if you get so into it that you're not even sure of where you are, you're just like, you become the instrument. That's really, I think, the ultimate place to be creatively.